All right, this is Chapter 8 review. So we started by talking about what a system of equations was and what a solution was. System of equation means you have two or more equations with a common solution. So what that means is that if you have the same ordered pair, that will work on all or both of your equations. So we'll look at that right now so you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. So we want to know, is this a solution for this set? All you need to do is substitute and see what happens. So y is 1, negative 1/3 times x, and x is negative 3. Remember, you can always put it over that. A negative times a negative is a positive. Well, here's 3 divided by 3, so I end up with 1. It works for this equation. Come over here, let's put it in. 3 times 1, negative 5 times negative 3, minus 12. Clean up the mess. This is 3 equals, negative times a negative is a positive, 15 minus 12, and 15 minus 12 is 3. So since that one point works for both equations, it is a solution to that system. So now in this lesson, in this chapter, I did a lesson on how to solve by graphing. Solve by graphing, it works sometimes. It sometimes has a problem because you can't exactly get it perfect to where you want. So if the directions say solve by graphing, you don't have to do that. I want you to solve. And you have a couple of ways to do that. One is by graphing, and one is by substitution. So I'm going to show you substitution again. I know you've already seen it, but this is a review. So again, you're going to want to find for x or for y. So in the case of this equation, I'm going to solve for this x. So I draw this. Doesn't matter which one. I saw that if I add the y to both sides, I can get the x all by itself very quickly. So negative y with a positive y is 0, and I get x. Over here I have a positive y minus 3. So I now have a different name for x. Just like when I'm at home, I'm Mom. When I'm here, I'm Mrs. Barker. When I'm with my friends, I'm Laura. So this has a different name. X is x, or x is the same thing as y minus 3. So we're going to come up here, and in place of x, we're going to use a different name for x. Plus 3y equals negative 6. So this is where the x was. So now we solve the equation. We look for, there's parentheses, distribute to get rid of our parentheses, 2y minus 2 times 3 plus 3y equals negative 6. Do the cleanup, 2y. Negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 3y equals negative 6. Collect like terms on the same side. Well, there's a 3y and a positive 2y. Both are positive. I add them together. And you'll see that these two I added together, and I was left with negative 6. We want the y by itself, so we start by addition and subtraction. This is a 0, and I'm left with 5y. And nice, this is a 0 over here. Opposite operations, divide by 5, so y equals 0. So I now know that the point I'm looking for, y is 0. So if I go all the way back up here into this equation, x minus y equals negative 3, I plug in y is 0. And I'm going to find out what x is. X minus 0 is x, so x is 3. So the point I'm looking for, x is negative 3, y is 0. This point works for both of those equations. It's a substitution thing. It's a solution of those two equations. We're going to try one more. So we're going to do one more example here in the review. If you still need more, please go back and rewatch 8.2, day 1 and day 2, and then talk to me if you're still struggling. So again, we're going to do substitution. I can get this x by itself really quick. Doesn't matter which one I pick. I'm going to just use that one. It's a plus 2y, so I'm going to subtract the 2y from both sides. This is a 0. X equals, and it doesn't matter what order you write it in, 5 minus 2y. So we have our new name for x. X is 5 minus 2y. And all the way over here, we're going to drop that in for x. So 3 times x looks like this. 3 times 5 minus 2y. Because I know there's a new name for the x. Then I record the rest. Minus y equals 8. Now I'm solving an equation, just like back in the earlier part of this year. So again, let's get rid of the parentheses. 3 times 5, 3 times 2. Or excuse me, 3 times 2y. So 3 times 5 minus 3 times 2y minus y equals 8. Clean it up. 15 minus, so a negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 2 is 6y minus y equals 8. Collect like terms on the same side, nothing to collect over here, but over here's two different y's, and they're both negative, so we add them together and they stay negative. Okay, so now let's see, we want the y by itself. This is a positive 15. The opposite would be subtracting a 15. It's what's in front that we're worried about, not this minus in the back. 15 minus 15 does give me 0. Move down that negative 7y. Here when I subtract, one's positive, one's negative, so I get 7. 15 is bigger than 8, and 15 is negative, so my answer is negative. So now I'm looking at something that looks really nice because I'm looking at multiplication. I'm going to divide, and negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1, and negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1. So I have my y. I'm going to go up to this equation, and I'm going to plug it in and find out what x is. So y equals 1. X plus 3 equals 5. Oops. Subtract that 3. 0. X equals 2. So the point I'm looking for is x is 2, y is 1. And that is the solution to these two equations. Some of the equations will get kind of ugly, but you just have to kind of stick with them and hope that they'll come out neat in the long run.